This video is part 2 of our How to Know If You're Ready to Retire. Coming up next. Hi everybody, my name is Dee Burks, and this is Retirement Rescue, where we talk about how to make money, save money, and live well in retirement. Now in part 1 of this series, we talked about the money aspects of retirement. How you need to plan for it, how you can have a practice run at retirement, but everyone knows there's more to it than that. How many times have you seen someone retire and then 2, maybe 3 years later, they're back doing the same job? Why is that? Why wouldn't someone who retired want to stay retired? In talking to those people, I discovered there are a lot of unexpected things that come up in retirement that people don't plan for. Things like what to do with themselves. Now, it's really easy to think, oh, I'm going to be retired. I'm going to travel. I'm going to go to the ski slopes every day. We're going to go see the grands. We're going to have such a good time. And that's great. And you do. And a lot of people do. But the truth is, when you can do something every day, it's not a thing anymore. You know how when you're working and you really look forward to that vacation, and you really look forward and you think, oh, when I retire, this is going to be how it's going to be every day. And then it is. And guess what? You get bored with it really quickly. Really quickly. I've talked to several people. One man who'd sold his company, and he sold his company for like $50 million. Ridiculous amount. And he retired at 50. It was great. They traveled. They bought a second home. They did this. They did that. And after a year, he was bored beyond belief. People who are productive every day, especially if you've risen to a point in your career in upper management to where you're used to solving problems and providing solutions and working together to do things and feel good about them, all of a sudden when you don't have that anymore, it is very easy to get depressed. It's very easy to feel worthless because you're not doing anything. And here's another shocker. Once you retire, people treat you completely differently. All of a sudden one day, you're at the top of your career. Maybe you're a CEO. Maybe you're in charge of nurses. Maybe doesn't matter what you're doing. You're important. People come to you for answers. The day you retire, the next day you tell someone you're retired, they're going to treat you like an old fool. I have seen it happen many times. It's happened to me. And people aren't ready for that. They're not ready to all of a sudden be relegated to has-been. But the minute you retire, that's what happens. I mean, how many times have you walked into a room full of retired people and thought, oh, there's an ex-CEO. That person was the mayor. That person has been a congressman. Do you even think that? No, you just think, oh, it's a bunch of retired people. Well, guess what? That's what everybody thinks. And all of a sudden your opinion doesn't matter. No one cares what you think. No one comes to you for any answers. There's nothing to do. And you've got to entertain yourself. So a big part of retiring, even if you retire early, or you retire when you're 60 or 65, is figuring out your and then what. You have got to think beyond the first year or 2 of retirement. Yes, you're going to go and play and you're going to have fun. But then what? But then what? Are you going to work extra side gigs just because you can and you have skills? Are you going to volunteer, maybe for a local nonprofit that you're really involved in? You need something that gives you purpose. You need something that allows you to feel good about yourself and feels like you're contributing. If you are just sitting at home binge watching Netflix, while that may sound wonderful now while you're working your 9 to 5 and hating Monday mornings, after a while it gets old. And you want to be productive. You want to find something to do. So think through now what that's going to be. And it's got to be more than just going to the ski slopes. Maybe you want to work part-time in the tourism industry or doing something in hospitality, something fun, but yet that allows you to feel like you're doing something. One thing that's really underestimated by so many people is the fact that when you retire, just like when you change jobs, you completely change your social structure. You go from getting to know all your coworkers and being connected with your coworkers to now having to create new connections within the retired community. And it's very different. You have to recreate your whole social network. And this is true even like when your kids leave home, all those people that you went to ball games with and you associated with that had kids the same age, you had so much in common. How much do you talk to them now? Do you talk to any of them? Maybe one or two, one couple, one or two couples, maybe. All of that changes when your life event changes. If you retire early, say 50, you're really not going to have anyone in your peer group that's also retired. That's a problem. You have to recreate social networks, and a lot of times that will be with people much older than you. I kind of semi-retired at 50. And now, having done that for 3 years now, and enjoyed it tremendously, make no mistake, but my social network are people who are anywhere from 15 to 20 years older than me. Because they're at the same life stage. They're retired, or they're pre-retired, or they're right there about to retire. They're all in that age group because we have things in common. So you have to recreate your entire network of social interaction. Now, before you retire, it's good to think about what industry you're in. Is it an industry that you could jump back in 2 or 3 years if you decide maybe, okay, you retired a little too early? And that's something to think about. I was an HR director in a hospital, and so there were a lot of vocations within the hospital environment where you can't really jump back out and then a few years later jump back in because of the certification, the continuing education that's involved. And so you really want to think about that before you do it. The same is true if you have a business and you sell your business. What are you going to do next? Are you going to start another business? There are a lot of people who are serial entrepreneurs and they start another business. Now, in order to do that, you definitely don't want to be risking your retirement money, but it's a great idea to start another business depending on the economy. Another area you really have to investigate before you retire is if you are in a relationship with your spouse or your partner, whomever, you really want to think through what that's going to mean for your relationship. Because when you're at work, most of the time, you're not spending 24/7 together. And while that may sound great, honestly, you may get on each other's nerves to the point you can't stand each other. So you really want to talk about, okay, what is this going to look like? It's really problematic many times if you have one spouse who retires and the other spouse is still working, because their life hasn't materially changed. But the other spouse that has retired, their life has changed. They've lost all those social connections at work. They're out of things to do. They want to go and do things, but you're at work. And so it feels like this tug of war almost, because the working person not only can build a little resentment toward the non-working person, but they want to go and do, and they still can't. Now, it can happen that you have an unexpected retirement. That happened to my dad. Is they closed a department. He was 69, almost 70, and while he wasn't necessarily planning to retire right then, that's what happened. And so there really wasn't an opportunity to think through some of these things. But it took him a good 2 years to adjust and figure out, okay, what's your what next? And how is it going to be? How is retirement actually going to be? And it's a constantly evolving thing. Because while you may have these big plans for retirement, life may have different plans. You may have sick or injured family members that need to be taken care of, and that takes over your life for a while. You may need to go and take care of grandkids, which is great, absolutely great, and that may take over your life for a while. And so the cool thing about retirement is you get to flex and adjust, but at the same time, it's really important not to be absolutely set in cement that it's going to go a certain way, because things change. The economy changes. We all change as people. Someone who, him and his spouse planned to retire and move to Florida. In fact, they had his retirement party and everything, and they were selling their house, getting ready to move, and it was discovered she had cancer. And so they decided to stay put through her cancer treatments. He went back to work, and they stayed in place while she went through her recovery and got to the 5-year point and had a clean report. And then they went ahead and retired to Florida. So even though you have a certain plan, you have to understand that retirement is one of those things that is flexible. You can decide what it is or what it isn't and create whatever kind of life you want. But it's really important that you think through, what is that life that you want? What do you really want? And just like on the financial side, take a trial run. See how it feels to actually be retired. You know, how much time do you spend just puttering around the house? Does that make you happy? It may. How much time do you spend fishing? Does that make you happy? And it may. So take a trial run, kind of work through some of these things before you commit to full retirement, and it'll be a much smoother process once you get there. I hope you gained something from this video, and if you have, be sure and share it with someone. Thanks for watching.